Good evening and welcome to Nationwide today. I'm Elizabeth Omori. We begin with economic matters. The Federal Executive Council is reassuring Nigerians that the current economic recession bedeviling the country will be short-lived. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, stated this while briefing journalists after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
I'm sure you've seen already in the media that the economy in the third quarter 2020 reported a negative growth of minus 3.62%. This is compared to a negative growth of minus 6.1% reported in the second quarter of 2020. This literally is about a 40% improvement over the second quarter. This third quarter report, though a contraction, is much better than we expected. At least the review that was done by the National Bureau of Statistics is also much better than was projected by the IMF and the World Bank. This COVID-19 recession follows a pattern across the world today, with almost every country that has reported its GDP going into recession. Bringing it closer home, the South African economy in the second quarter of 2020 reported a negative growth of 50%. This is compared to Nigeria's negative growth of minus 6.1% in the second quarter of 2020. While the economy has entered into recession in the third quarter, the trend of improvement between the second quarter and the third quarter clearly shows that this recession will be short-lived, and it indicates that we could actually exit recession in the fourth quarter, or worst case, in the first quarter of 2021.
And government is working towards reversing the declining economic trend that caused Nigeria to enter into a recession. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, at the close of the 2020 Nigerian Economic Summit, said the COVID-19-induced recession has brought to the fore the need for an all-inclusive approach to bring economic growth at par with population increase. Leah Kachung Babaknadi completes the story.
For 2 days, policymakers, economists, the business community, opinion shapers and development partners converged on Abuja and the cyberspace to brainstorm and explore ways to recovery for Nigeria. Emerging trends and ways to mitigate the downsides, they agree, are imperative for building a veritable economy. Action is the general consensus at the close of the 26th edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit.
Recently, our youths have spoken and we have heard. We need to set up a thinking group of youths from the ward level to the local government level, to the state level, and to the national level.
Including our youth in the processes as solution finders because of their skills, their innovative minds. We also try to make the shift from empowerment to investment, or we see a way to blend it.
It doesn't stop at a handshake between policymakers and the private sector, as there was a campaign for legislative collaboration in meeting the desired change for growth.
A more holistic framework, and I think that is what you're talking about when you say redesign.
Yeah.
It is redesigning with evidence that we want.
It is this generation's task to look the impossible in the eye and make it possible.
Planning for the future and robust youth population, as well as gender inclusiveness, were prominent features during the engagement.
No matter who you think you are right now, what position you occupy and what you're doing, if the nation doesn't work for all of us, we will all suffer.
Stakeholders departed with signals to unify efforts to see Nigeria emerge from the present recession by the first quarter of 2021. In Abuja, Leah Katimbabaji, NTA News.
Still on economic matters, accurate remittance of revenue by government agencies to the Federation account is key to the realization of the nation's revenue mobilization drive of the government. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, hosted this at a 3-day post-mortem retreat on the Federation Account Allocation Committee, called for fiscal discipline and improved revenue generation for the country's economic growth. Udwak Etem reports.
Transparency and accountability of government funds are paramount, especially for the promotion of good governance and prudent management of all revenue. Therefore, the appraisal of the management of Federation accounts is said to be necessary. Hence, the hosting of a 3-day retreat by post-mortem subcommittee of the Federation Account Allocation Committee to evaluate issues emanating from the Federation accounts from January 2015 to December 2019.
Tremendous support the FAC received over the years, especially in the areas of revenue, improved revenue for the entire 3 years of government.
The post-mortem subcommittee is an initiative of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, aimed at ensuring that the nation's revenue continues to grow while emphasizing on effective management of funds.
The subcommittee is expected to undertake periodic review of the performances of the revenue-generating agencies and how best to improve revenue collections for the Federation.
We have looked at how revenue-generating agencies can improve efficiency and transparency within this period in order to enhance government revenue.
It is expected that recommendations on issues, challenges and prospects of revenue generation and other topics would be implemented for enhanced government revenue. In Uyo, Udwak Etam, NTA News.
Meanwhile, actionable plans for short-term and long-terms capable of rebirthing the global economy to deliver sustainable development post-COVID-19 have been presented to the world. This was during a roundtable series of renowned economists convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Adebola Brooksland Sunday has details.
In the past 10 months, the coronavirus pandemic has precipitated one of the worst health, socio-economic and humanitarian crises in over a century, which the consequences are negatively impacting the lives and livelihoods of billions of people globally. The virtual meeting brought together influential thinkers, policymakers and economists to reflect and build on the outcomes of the first 2 roundtables in the series. Convener of the meeting, Antonio Guterres, wants real and foundational necessary change to assist developing countries solve their problems occasioned by the pandemic.
As a matter of fact, there has been a huge increase of liquidity in the world, but that liquidity has benefited developed countries. It has benefited middle-income countries with good access to financial markets that have good fundamentals.
Since those least privileged and poorest in society spend the most out of their incomes. Inclusive growth is the only way to achieve sustainable economic growth.
There is, big conversation on how we need to move forward with proposals that have massive counter-cyclical stimulus measures, universal social protection floors, aligning our recovery policies and packages with the SDGs and the climate agenda.
Other recommendations include building a new global system founded on social and economic inclusion, equity and environmental justice. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Into other matters of concern, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the federal government still demands an in-depth investigation from the American cable news network CNN over its recent reports on the shooting of peaceful protesters in Lagos. Lai Mohammed was discussing the aftermath of NSAS on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria. Olushaye Adiagbo reports.
The minister emphasized that the government of Nigeria is standing its ground, that the report is neither balanced, fair nor an accurate reportage of the Lekki Tollgate incident.
We demand that CNN investigates that report because it's irresponsible, it's unfair, and that they should do the needful. But this is without prejudice to whatever decisions the federal government decides to take on the matter, because we won't sit by and allow CNN or any news organization to throw the country to another war based on fake news.
The government is said has been proactive in responding to the demands from the End SARS protest and reassures the present administration's commitment towards making governance all-inclusive. On regulation of social media contents, the minister said fake news threatens the peaceful coexistence and growth of any society, and Nigeria is not going back on plans to guide against the destructive influence of fake news in the country.
All we are saying is that fake news, disinformation, should not be allowed to destabilize our country. And we are not alone in seeking for regulation.
The information minister also explains that the current recession in Nigeria is inevitable as it is an aftermath of COVID-19, expressing optimism that it will not last long as strategies are in place to reverse it. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
A complainant, Idris Sulaiman, has tendered 31 empty tear gas canisters and 4 empty shells as exhibits against police brutality in Wash Village, Gabat District area of Lavin Local Government area of Niger State. Mukhtar Abubakar Wawot reports that this came to the fore at the ongoing hearing of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry into the cases of police brutality.
A joint complaint, Suleiman Aliyu and Idris Suleiman of Washi Village, Lavun Local Government Area of Niger State, filed a complaint alleging that the first respondent, DSP Muhammad Iya, rode on his influence as police to use excessive force on their community over a farmland dispute with a neighboring community. The second complainant, Idris Suleiman, tendered 31 tear gas canisters and 4 empty shells as exhibits to which admissibility was objected by the OC Legal of the Niger State Police Command.
The possession of it alone is an offense. He recovers it. Yes, my lord, sir. Behold, did it beckon on you that the police were supposed to go back and recover it? Whether it is legal or illegal, you have to account for the arms. The police were directed to investigate.
The panel, however, admitted the exhibits. A complainant's witness identified herself as Azumi Muhammad, submitted that she lost some of her teeth from a police gunshot during the police assault. The police counsel cross-examined the witness to authenticate her testimony before the commission. The matter was, however, adjourned to the 28th of this month for the commission's lead counsel to present more witnesses. Emina Mukhtar Abubakar, NTA News.
This is Nationwide on NTA. Time now to join Adeola in Lagos for more reports. Hello, Adeola.
Lizzie, good to see you. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola was in Lagos State to engage stakeholders on the way forward on internal security and conflict resolution. Nosa Osula reports that preventing a repeat of the NSAS protests was holistically discussed at the meeting.
The Federal Ministry of Interior engaged in consultations with the state government, traditional rulers, civil society groups, religious institutions, and youth groups on the need to adopt dialogue as key approach in channeling grievances and resolving conflicts. Minister of Interior Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola explained that the federal government particularly had a responsibility to deepen peace and reduce conflicts in Lagos and the country at large.
No development, political, economic and social, can be undertaken outside of security.
The Ministry of Police Affairs will continue to work with the leadership of the Ministries of Interior, Defense, and other stakeholders to improve security visibility, intelligence gathering, and the coordinated offensive against enemies of our collective peace and well-being.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who commended the federal government for its commitment to restoring peace in troubled states, described the initiative as a deliberate effort to address causes of crisis and nip violence in the bud once and for all.
We should not allow the fifth columnists or conspiracy theorists to capitalize on the after effect of the protest with collateral damages of police facilities, vandalizations of arms and ammunition that were looted, and also the grave issues that happen even on private and public properties.
The participants in the 15-point communique issued after the meeting called on the federal government to treat Lagos security as a national issue. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
And still on ensuring security, the Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy has flagged off exercise Shark Shiva in collaboration with the Italian Navy to again checkmate the activities of piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. Joyken Abakboye reports that the exercise affords personnel of the Nigerian Navy to undergo several training as part of the commitment to ensuring better maritime security.
Setting sail is a norm for the Navy in the discharge of its constitutional role of securing the nation's maritime domain. This has been achieved through several operations and exercises that have in the past recorded successes. This time, the Italian Navy ship ITS Federico Mantinengo arrived the nation's shores to commence exercise Shark Shiva. Several ships from the Nigerian Navy fleet will be participating in the exercise to complement other series of exercises under the command.
This exercise is a combined exercise with one of our foreign partners, the Italian Navy. The issue of maritime crimes has international dimensions and could be characterized as a global challenge. This global challenge therefore requires a globally framed response and collaboration.
That has seen Italy partnering with Nigeria and with the Nigerian Navy in particular in its needs for increasing the security of the whole region. This is just a part of our wider excellent bilateral relations, which under the guidance of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari have increased in the past years.
The synergy with friendly forces like the Italian Navy is to strengthen the capacity of the Navy to combat maritime crimes in all forms. In Lagos, Joyken Abakboye, NTA News.
And now talking environment matters. Proper waste sorting from home, disposal and recycling are key to curbing environmental hazards in Nigeria. Experts emphasized this at the opening of a 5-day capacity building workshop for government regulatory agencies on e-waste management in Lagos. Diana Ajali reports.
The National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRA, under Global Environmental Facility, GEF, implemented by the United Nations Environment Programme, embarked on a training for government inspectors and relevant stakeholders with the objective of empowering them with technical knowledge and value chain to conduct their operations in an environmentally sound manner.
We'll be able to monitor the key players in the electronic waste sector very well now.
We even have some other waste from the homes, like our fleet, the bulbs that we use. Some of them are very hazardous and they're not supposed to be mingled.
What we are trying to encourage is the private sector participation in waste management in Nigeria.
Director General NESRA noted that part of the project's objective on circular economy approaches for the electronic sector in Nigeria is the collection and treatment of 300,000 tons of e-waste using online method in addition to door-to-door collection, which will hopefully commence January 2021.
Whoever produces any item is expected to be responsible for its end of life. so that he can take care of it, remove it from the environment and recycle it.
The 5-day training for government regulators was divided into various groups, like producers training, collectors and recyclers training, among others. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
Well, it's time for us to take our first break, and when we return, it will be time for Nura Tanko Wakili in Sokoto to give us stories from that.
I'm glad to be with you in Sokoto. Sokoto State government will expend 1.9 billion naira to rehabilitate electricity infrastructure across the state. This is the total cost required as identified by the committee set up to find out the causes of epileptic power supply in the state, headed by the Deputy Governor Manir Muhammad Daya. Alhatu Abdullahi reports.
Presenting the report to the governor, the committee chairman and Deputy Governor Manir Muhammad Daya said it contains all the assessments and the recommendations on how best to address the problem. He said in the course of its assignment, the committee reached out to ministries of energy and petroleum resources and that of rural development, saying the report also covered all the 23 local governments of the state.
As we are all aware, power is a prerequisite towards achieving the development objective, not only in Sokoto and the country in general.
While thanking the committee for the detailed work, Governor Aminu Azira Tambol said the report will be carefully studied for implementation to change the narratives for the better.
As assessed by this committee, we require about 1.87, that's almost 1.9 billion naira, for us to ensure that we at least do our own bit. The government of Sokoto State will now collaborate with the Ministry for Local Government Affairs to see how best we can come up with the implementation strategy of this project, which we believe are key to the transformation of particularly rural areas.
In Sokoto, Dalhat Abdullahi, NTA News.
Meanwhile, wife of Kebbi State Governor Dr. Zainab Shinkapipa Gudu has expressed commitment to the fight against cancer in the country. Dr. Zainab stated this while administering anti-cancer vaccine to students of Government Girls Science College, Yauri in Kebbi State. Hassana Abubakar Koko reports.
The wife of Kebbi State Governor Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu and her entourage were received by both the students and staff of the college. The governor's wife explained that the visit was to administer anti-cancer vaccine on the students.
Rest assured, Medicaid Cancer Foundation will be in front and we will lead the fight and we will lead the vaccination process all through Kebbi State and Nigeria and Africa, inshallah.
She urged the students to take their studies seriously, ensure personal hygiene. The principal of the college, Dr. Suwaiba Salisu Kangiwa, and some benefiting students thanked the governor's wife for her concern for them.
This is the third of vaccine that's still for Her Excellency. We pray for such vaccinations for the next coming students.
The wife of the governor proceeded to Yauri General Hospital, where she met with pregnant women and presented some essential items to be used by them during delivery and nursing period, stressing the need to also ensure education for their children. Also benefited from Dr. Zainab Bagudu's visit to Yauri were the less privileged, who went home with treated mosquito nets, blankets and foodstuff, among others. At the palace of Emir of Yauri, Dr. Zayanu Abdullahi, the royal father expressed his concern over the rising cases of rape and other forms of gender-based violence in the country. The Emir, who observed the use of social media by young boys and girls, negatively contributed to the ugly development, enjoined parents and guardians to play their rightful roles for proper upbringing of their children. The governor's wife thanked the royal father for his advice. Hassana Abubakar Koko, NTA News.
And that's it from Sokoto. Nationwide continues in Abuja.
Thank you so much, Nora. On a bit of the judiciary, stakeholders in judiciary have called for proper adaptation of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act by states in Nigeria. They made this known at the review and validation workshop on the Administration of Criminal Justice Laws Case Analysis Project, organized by the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies in Abuja Austin Ayebe reports.
The workshop was to assess the application of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act in judicial decisions at state levels. However, there was no consensus on implementation in states that have adopted the Act, as some judges still do not make reference to the provisions of the Act while writing judgments. This is a major concern among stakeholders in the legal profession. Director General, Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, Professor Mohammed Tawfiq Ladan said it's a work in progress, as 26 states have so far adopted the Act, and with more capacity building for legal practitioners, there will be improvement in the application of the provisions of the Act.
There are actually states that have just, adopted ACJA as part of their state laws, but they are yet to internalize the provisions of ACJA as comprehensive, complex, and innovative as the law is. Second, they also need rules of court to help them or guide them in the application of the laws, in the course of their proceedings.
The Institute unveiled publications carried out in the past 3 years in 16 states of the country under the MacArthur Foundation. The project seeks to contribute to improving government's ability to effectively respond to cases of corruption by strengthening the capacity of legal professionals to enforce core elements of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that support the anti-corruption crusade. In Abuja, Austin Ayebe, NTA News.
And the Federal High Court Abuja has granted an application for adjournment filed by the shorty Sani Umar Dangaladima, who deposed to a 60 million naira bail bond on behalf of Faisal, son of Abdurrashid Maina, chairman of the defunct Reform Task Team. The presiding judge predicated his decision on the need to give the shorty fair hearing. Olabode Areba completes the story.
The trial in absentia of Abdurrashid Maina and his son Faisal resumed this Wednesday, with Faisal's shorty, Sani Umar Dangaladima, appearing in court to show cause while he should not forfeit the bail bond he signed to always produce Faisal in court. The shorty, who represents Kara Namoda Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, submitted to his counsel, Muhammad Sharif, that he needed more time to respond to the court's order. The court adjourned the matter to November 4th, 2020. Meanwhile, Rukaya Ibrahim, an EFCC investigator, gave evidence how Abdurrashid Maina allegedly connived with his son Faisal, the former head of service Stephen Rosaye, and various companies to siphon 14 billion naira from the pension section at the office of the head of service. Justice Okuna Bank has issued arrest warrants for Abdurrashid Maina and his son Faisal because they jumped bail. In Abuja, Labodarewa, NTA News.
Let's now take you to our studio in Benin, where Ogochukuka is standing by with some reports for us. Hello, Ogochukuka.
Elizabeth, good afternoon. Edo State Government has launched the modified integrated medical outreach program. It is to boost primary health care services in 7 selected local government areas considered as low immunization performing councils. Elizabeth Omoko reports.
The modified integrated medical outreach program is aimed at taking care of immunization services, antenatal, nutrient supplements, HIV testing, family planning, and other health education services. The Deputy Governor restated government's commitment towards providing adequate and sustained delivery of quality health care that will meet the aspiration of Edo people.
I am therefore using this opportunity to appeal to our parents, caregivers, religious and community leaders to take this as their responsibility.
The state coordinator of World Health Organization, Faith Irregular, says with the program, children who have not been immunized will be reached across all communities in the affected local governments.
Even if they don't have children, they are not going for family planning, but they feel sick, or their children feel sick, they should also go to the health center.
The local governments to benefit are Esa Northeast, Esa Southeast, Esako West, Owan West, Orionwo, Ovia Northeast, and Uwode in Benin. Elizabeth Omako, NTA News.
After the recent rush of criminality and lawlessness, normalcy is gradually returning to Benin City and its environs. Good luck, Naini. In this report examines the impact of the Joint Security Task Force, which is established to address the situation in the state.
For the past 7 years, Moruf has been trading here at the popular Santana Market in the metropolis. The recent violence in some parts of the metropolis following the hijack #EndSARS protest turned the tide for the worse for him. The protests caused him a huge loss as his stock goods rotted away owing to inadequate patronage. However, Adamu and other traders in the market are fully back to business.
Thanks for staying with us. And our next port of call is Kaduna, where Salamato will be our guide on Nationwide.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and a warm welcome to Kaduna. Nigerian military has challenged its junior officers to stay informed with the latest approach to counter-terrorism and the fight against insurgency. This was demonstrated during a council course for junior officers at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji. Abdullahi Muhammad reports.
Terrorism and insurgency, a twin-headed phenomenon that bedevil the global community and a trigger of military expeditions to keep citizens safe by nations. Nigeria is making bold moves in that regard, keeping officers and men of the military ahead of the atrocities of the terrorists and insurgents. The Commandant, Armed Forces Command and Staff College Jaji, Air Vice Marshal Abubakar Liman, came to the Hejirika Auditorium with a call for synergy among the three arms of the military in defeating the terrorists and insurgents.
I believe the Nigerian Armed Forces and indeed other security agencies and other partners here present have a fine crop of young minds such as yours to tackle the contemporary challenges facing the country. I trust that you will all participate actively during this discussion session and come up with meaningful suggestions that will improve the lot of the armed forces of Nigeria and our security system generally.
The junior officers are expected to spend days listening to experts with simulations portraying real threats and countermeasures. In Kaduna, Abdullah Muhammad, NTA News.
More than 700 sexual assaults and domestic violence-related cases were recorded in Jigawa State during the lockdown. This stakeholder says called for intervention as the new normal sets in. Hawa Haliru Haruna reports that one of such moves was a 3-day training organized for community volunteers, which aims at averting a repeat of the same menace in the state.
The Rise Up Women Rights Ambassadors Training, supported by Action Aid Nigeria, is a project which seeks to facilitate action to protection services for victims and survivors of sexual, gender-based violence. It is also to ensure the victimized, less privileged, has access to health services, security, and justice in this era of the new normal.
Under the COVID-19 lockdown, we've seen so many cases of sexual and gender-based violence across the country, which need to be addressed now when things have gone back to the new normal.
Participants from the 27 local government of the state are expected to ensure community mobilization to support victims, negotiate the rights of people that are victimized, and be able to link up support services to ensure justice. The trained community volunteers are also expected to promote immediate reporting of violence and follow up reported cases. Hawa Haller Haruna, NTA News.
That is it from here. Back to Elizabeth in Abuja.
Thank you so much, Salamatu. Key players in the nation's health sector strengthen rapid diagnosis response and other infectious prevention control measures to curtail the emergence of second wave of COVID-19 in major communities of the world. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports on recommendations made by guests on NTA's Tuesday Live.
The second wave of COVID-19 remains top on global health chart, and this is giving world leaders restless times in the control and management of the virus. Guests on NTA Current Affairs program Tuesday Live suggested temporary closure of international flight operations to prevent upsurge of the virus during Yuletide.
especially Western Europe, the US, and other countries with higher incidence of this disease than we have at the moment, to maybe reconsider those trips and only go if it's absolutely necessary.
This is the time we need to fortify our response activities, our surveillance activities, and put in place those mechanisms that can help us contain the spread of this virus in our society. Unfortunately, on ground already, solidly, is the community transmission of this virus. Then we also have, clusters happening.
Scientific measures were advocated to strengthen the existing safety protocols and to increase diagnosis centers to manage the health crisis.
Virtually every state now has access to a molecular lab. We have over 70 public health laboratories and over 20 private laboratories that are able to test for COVID-19. In addition to that, we are in the process of introducing rapid diagnostic tests that can give you results within 15 minutes.
Experts say sustaining healthy practices like regular hand washing, use of hand sanitizer and face masks remains the first line of defense against the pandemic.
We really have to bump up or increase the number of testings. That is the only way. If we test it and then from that data we can confidently say that this is the direction where we're going.
Communication risk management and behavioral change of the people across urban and rural settlements are also challenging stakeholders to increase capacity response to second wave of COVID-19. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Still talking health, a flagship health intervention program to help tackle the twin challenges of maternal infant mortality and malnutrition in Nigeria has come on stream. At the launch of the program, Lafia UK-Niger Partnership for a Healthier Future at the British High Commission in Abuja, both countries pledged to commit more resources towards strengthening the primary health care system in Nigeria. Kelvin Elnwai reports.
Under the Lafia Health Program, the British government plans to invest €235 million over the next 8 years in the 5 pilot states of Kaduna, Kano, Yobe, Jigawa and Borno states. The funds will primarily be channeled towards saving lives, reduce suffering, and improve effectiveness of public health care for the poorest and most vulnerable in the benefiting states. The federal government's basic health care provision fund structure will be the main interfacing organ with the Lafia program.
Particularly significant to note that this health program is set out to improve health outcomes for the poor and vulnerable through a more resilient public and private health system.
Nigeria needs to harness a demographic dividend and drive its development.
For the benefiting states, malnutrition is a major challenge they want the Lafia program to strategically address with a design of local response mechanism with active involvement of states and local authorities. The target of the program is to reduce maternal-infant mortality by 40% and improve infant and adolescent nutrition by 50% in the benefiting states in the next 8 years. In Abuja, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Talking security now, not fewer than 67 bandits armed with very high caliber weapons, including anti-aircraft guns, have been neutralized and several others injured in air interdiction missions executed by the air component of Operation Adarin Daji at Brenin Kogo Forest in Katsina State. In air strikes conducted by the air component at a forest in Zamfara State on the 23rd of November 2020, sequel to incredible human intelligence reports as well as aerial surveillance missions that led to the identification of the 2 forest hideouts which housed scores of the armed bandits, along with hundreds of rustled cattle. The Nigerian Air Force fighter jets and helicopter gunships dispatched by the air component to attack the 2 locations took turns in engaging the target areas and hit caves used by the armed bandits for shields. Still in security, the Niger Police Force is strengthening the capacity of personnel of IGP monitoring units to tackle the dynamics of crimes and contain the increasing threats of internal security. Francis Wong reports.
The IGP Monitoring Unit was established to serve as watchdog and investigate cases of security interest and other high-profile crimes bordering on corrupt practices that may require professional security intervention as response to the outcry by Nigerians for an improved policing.
To enhance efficiency, effectiveness, and professionalism in the discharge of police duties.
The leadership of the force is equipping men of the IGP unit to carry out this task.
A training of this nature presents a veritable opportunity to build all intra- and inter-agency network, which could be invaluable to the participants as they further their investigative mandate.
Yours is a clarion call, citizens of Nigeria, to continue on the path of justice, professionalism, proficiency in carrying out your responsibility.
I'm encouraging all participants at this event to pay much attention to the lecturers, to the various lectures they are going to receive, and to also contribute meaningfully so that at the end of the day, we'll have a more robust discourse in our needed transformation of the police force.
The 3-day engagement is expected to provide officers and men of the unit with the needed approach and expertise necessary for modern crime management. In Abuja, Francis from NTA News.
Let's now shift attention to migration. Tackling irregular migration requires strengthening of policies by African countries to reduce unauthorized movements across borders. This is one of the recommendations of the migration experts and participants during our webinar on irregular migration information and communication campaign in Abuja. A 2015 report by the United Nations shows that the number of international migrants have reached 244 million, 41% increase compared to the year 2000. To this end, critical stakeholders on migration during our webinar explored ways to ending irregular migration and human trafficking. Director General NAPTIP highlighted unemployment, unimaginable family size, and increase in global demand for sex as factors promoting irregular migration and human trafficking.
We need to change the mindset of Nigerians, the youths and everyone. We need to change that mindset of where people believe that anything outside Nigeria is better than Nigeria. So we need a national reorientation.
Participants recommended strengthening of bilateral engagements and domestication of migration policies by state governments.
I have a lot to bring on board to enrich our understanding of what government has been doing in recent time on these issues and how best to drive this process to its logical conclusion to get meaningful results and direction going forward.
Harnessing potential of the non-oil sector and proper parental guidance, they believe are other ways to raising the search for greener pastures syndrome outside the country. Now, as farmers round off harvesting of farm yields, prices of foodstuff, especially grains, are gradually stabilizing in some markets, with buyers and sellers making brisk business. Ibrahim Bello Gunda visited the weekly Gujungu Sunday market in Jigawa State and now reports.
Gujungu Weekly Market in Taura local government area of Jigawa State is one of the 3 big markets in the state, known for its high-quality grains, among other attracting buyers and sellers from neighboring states and even Niger Republic. The volume of grains that come to the market is second to none, with one of the best prices, which is dropping gradually due to influx of yields from the farm.
We sell cassava 100 kg bag for 12,000 to 12,500 naira, which is cheaper than before, which cost 20,000 naira. We buy cassava from farmers at the cost of 11,500 naira each. We sell maize 13,500 naira for 100 kg, guinea corn 13,500 naira. Beans major is sold for 500 naira, while the bag is 20,000 naira.
The leadership of the market said they are ensuring peaceful atmosphere for good transactions.
We ensure everyone's safety and work against pickpockets, among others.
The Jigawa State Committee on Consumer Protection was on hand to arrest a seller who was caught cheating his customers by adulterating his grains.
We observe the market, and sometimes we get adulterators inside the market.
The market provides livelihood to many people that help in one way or the other to the success of all transactions. From Gujungu Market in Taura local government area of Jigawa State, I am Ibrahim Bello Gunda, NTA News.
To sport